The calm before the storm. The sun rose over Earth as it always had, casting its golden rays over the vast oceans and sprawling cities. People went about their daily lives, unaware that a storm was coming. Not a storm of wind or rain, but a storm that would shake the very foundation of their existence. For centuries, humanity had lived with the belief that they were just another species on a quiet, distant planet. They had never dreamed that their home would one day become the center of a galactic conflict. But in the quiet corners of space, far beyond their reach, a threat was growing, one that would soon be impossible to ignore. On the outskirts of the solar system, an immense fleet of warships gathered in secret. The Galactic Empire, the most powerful force in the universe, had set its sights on Earth. They had heard rumors of a primitive species living on a small blue planet. To them, Earth was nothing more than an insignificant world, easily conquered and added to their vast empire. They believed humanity to be weak and unprepared, just another obstacle to be swept aside in their endless expansion. But what the Empire didn't know was that Earth was far more than it seemed. The humans had faced challenges before: wars, diseases, and natural disasters, and they had always found a way to survive. But this time, the threat was different. Earth was about to face an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered. And yet for now, all was calm. In cities around the world, people went to work, studied, and spent time with their families, unaware of the danger that loomed above. The leaders of Earth's nations were in meetings, discussing the usual problems: economic growth, political issues, and environmental concerns. The idea that their world could be in danger from space seemed impossible. Who would believe such a thing? Surely, the Empire would never come this far. Earth was nothing more than a blip on the radar of galactic power. The Empire had bigger worlds to conquer, bigger threats to crush, or so they thought. It was in the quiet of the night that the first sign of trouble came. A lone satellite, high above Earth's atmosphere, picked up an unusual signal. At first, it seemed like a random anomaly, a glitch in the system. But when scientists and military officials examined the data, their faces turned pale. The signal wasn't from Earth. It wasn't from any known source. It was coming from deep space, far beyond the solar system, from a point where no human technology had ever reached. At first, there was disbelief. How could anyone, let alone an alien force, know of Earth? But as the days passed, the signals grew clearer. Then came the first direct communication. A strange message was broadcast across the world, in every language. This is the Galactic Empire. Earth is now under our jurisdiction. Prepare to surrender. The message echoed in every home, every office, and every school. At first, people thought it was some kind of joke, a prank or a hoax. But when governments scrambled to verify the source, they were met with the cold, hard truth. The message was real, and the Empire's fleet, a massive armada of ships, was already on its way to Earth. Panic began to spread like wildfire. News outlets reported the event in disbelief, unable to fully comprehend what was happening. How could something like this happen? Earth was not prepared for a war with an empire that spanned entire galaxies. The people of Earth had never even considered the possibility of alien life, let alone an invasion. But the threat was real. While the public panicked, behind closed doors, the leaders of Earth began to take action. The United Nations, along with military and scientific advisors from all over the world, gathered to discuss the situation. The first step was to communicate back to the Empire. But how could they do that? They were outmatched, outgunned, and outnumbered. Yet they could not sit idly by and allow their planet to be taken without a fight. A small group of leaders, military officials, and scientists gathered in secret, drafting a response. It was simple, yet powerful. Earth will not surrender. We will fight. Do not underestimate us. They sent the message, hoping it would be received. They knew that a peaceful resolution was impossible. The Empire was too powerful, and their intentions were clear. In the days that followed, Earth's leaders began to make preparations. They knew that the Empire would not wait long before launching their invasion. But what could they do? Earth's military might was no match for an empire, with ships capable of destroying entire planets. Still, humanity had something the Empire did not: determination. As the days turned into weeks, the world's top minds worked tirelessly on a plan. They began constructing defenses and gathering resources. The United Nations called for unity, urging every nation to set aside their differences and work together for the survival of the human race. But deep down, there was an unsettling feeling. Was this really the end? Were they truly prepared for what was coming? At the same time, the Empire's fleet drew closer. Thousands of ships, each more powerful than the last, moved silently through the dark void of space, their course set for Earth. The Empire was confident in their victory. After all, they had crushed countless civilizations before. Why would Earth be any different? The calm before the storm was nearly over. Earth was on the brink of war, and the fate of the entire human race hung in the balance. The Empire had underestimated humanity, and it would soon realize that this would be a fight unlike any it had ever faced before. As the first fleet of ships entered the edge of Earth's atmosphere, a cold silence fell over the planet. The people of Earth watched in horror as the massive ships appeared in the sky, casting shadows over cities below. The invasion had begun, but the true fight for survival was just about to start. The calm was shattered, and humanity would soon show the Empire that they had made a terrible mistake. The first strike. The first sign of the Empire's arrival came in the dead of night, just as the last lights of the setting sun faded into the deep, silent darkness of space. For weeks, Earth's leaders had prepared for this moment, designing defenses, gathering troops, and hoping for a miracle, but nothing could truly prepare them for what they were about to face. As humanity watched in terror, the colossal fleet of alien warships slowly moved into position, their metal hulls gleaming with the promise of destruction. As the ships crossed the edge of Earth's atmosphere, the ground below trembled with the force of their engines. The sky turned dark with the shadow of their presence, as thousands of ships hovered above cities, each ship capable of obliterating everything in its path with just a single command. From the ground, Earth's military forces scrambled, but they knew they were hopelessly outmatched. Earth's weapons were primitive compared to the Empire's advanced technology. It felt like an unthinkable nightmare come to life. Across the world, panic erupted. People abandoned their homes and took to the streets, some searching for safety, others frozen in fear, staring up at the sky. The governments issued emergency broadcasts, urging people to remain calm, but calm was a luxury few could afford. In the midst of chaos, a few brave souls gathered in secret, knowing that the time for diplomacy had passed. Earth would have to fight for its survival or perish. But the humans weren't without hope. Among Earth's greatest minds, some had anticipated this day for years. Scientists, military strategists, and engineers from around the world had collaborated to create a last line of defense. They had known that Earth's weapons couldn't compete against the Empire's might, but they had a different plan, one that no one could have foreseen. The moment came as the Empire's fleet began to deploy its invasion forces. Massive landing pods descended toward Earth, their hatches opening to reveal the Empire's ground troops. They were poised to conquer, to crush the resistance beneath their feet. And yet, as the first wave of troops landed, they found the unexpected. It started with a single strike, one lone fighter jet, piloted by a skilled human who had nothing but a small outdated craft and the will to protect his home. With precision and skill, he dove into the heart of the Empire's fleet, firing with everything he had. To the Empire, this was a laughable gesture, an insignificant act of defiance. But it was just the beginning. As the pilot's attack caused a chain reaction, the human forces took their stand. From all corners of the Earth, soldiers, civilians, and scientists alike rose up, armed with the knowledge they had gathered over years of preparation. Earth's top-secret projects, designed in the event of such an attack, were now activated. Humans weren't just fighting with technology. They were fighting with their greatest weapon, ingenuity. The first wave of the Empire's soldiers was met with overwhelming resistance. Human technology, far from weak, was paired with brilliant minds who knew how to turn the tables. Earth's cities were suddenly alive with counterattacks, guerrilla strikes, and sabotage. The Empire's troops, advanced though they were caught off guard by the sheer unpredictability of their human opponents. In space, the humans launched their own counter-offensive. Ships that had once been considered outdated were now fitted with experimental weapons and tactics designed to confuse and surprise. Despite the overwhelming odds, Earth's forces did not back down. Every human knew what was at stake, and every person, from the highest-ranking general to the youngest volunteer, fought for their survival. As the first few days of conflict passed, the Empire began to realize something terrifying. They had underestimated humanity. The human spirit, fueled by the desire to protect their home and loved ones, had proven to be more dangerous than they had anticipated. They had assumed that Earth's people would cower in fear, surrendering without a fight. But the opposite was happening. Humans had declared that they would not be crushed. They would not bend. With each passing hour, the Empire's confidence began to erode. Their superior technology was meeting with unexpected resistance. Earth's fighters, though outnumbered and underpowered, were relentless. They fought with everything they had, and in their struggle, they found strength in unity and creativity. There was no plan that couldn't be undone, no obstacle that couldn't be overcome. The first wave of the invasion was not the end. It was just the beginning of a war that would change the galaxy forever. The Empire's realization. The clash between the Empire and Earth had begun, and the first wave of the invasion had left both sides shaken. The Empire had expected an easy victory, their technological superiority assuring them of success. Yet, as the days passed, they began to understand a painful truth. Humanity was not as weak as they had believed. They had underestimated the resilience and resourcefulness of Earth's defenders. The Empire's commanders convened in their flagship, their faces grim as they watched the unfolding chaos. Data streamed in from across the galaxy, reports flooding in from their soldiers on the ground and in space. The numbers told a troubling story. Earth was not folding under pressure. In fact, it was fighting back harder than anyone could have imagined. The first wave of the Empire's invasion forces had been repelled, and Earth's forces were making tactical advances. The sheer unpredictability of humanity's tactics was unlike anything the Empire had encountered. Earth's fighters, often piloted by civilians with no formal military training, employed unconventional strategies that confused even the most experienced alien generals. Human ships, though outdated by Imperial standards, had been refitted with experimental weapons and technologies designed specifically for this moment. In the atmosphere, Earth's ground forces moved quickly, striking without warning and then vanishing into the labyrinth of cities and forests. Guerrilla warfare had become the hallmark of humanity's resistance. The Empire's soldiers, accustomed to the precision of their own forces, found themselves caught in an endless cycle of ambushes, traps, and unpredictable counterattacks. Despite their superior numbers and firepower, the Empire's soldiers began to question whether this would truly be an easy conquest. Back on Earth, human morale surged. In every corner of the planet, people rallied behind the soldiers, scientists, and engineers who had made the impossible possible. News broadcasts showed clips of heroic acts, civilians using makeshift weapons to disable enemy tanks, scientists coordinating strikes from underground bunkers, and ordinary men and women coming together to protect their homes. Humanity had thrown out the idea of weakness and embraced unity. The Empire's commanders, who had once laughed at the prospect of a human resistance, now saw the error of their ways. They had assumed Earth would surrender easily, that the people would cower in fear. But what they had failed to understand was the power of human determination. Humans didn't just fight for survival. They fought for freedom, for their families, and for the future of their world. It wasn't just the technology that made humanity dangerous. It was their unyielding spirit, their refusal to accept defeat. Each battle, each encounter, seemed to drive home this point. The Empire's most advanced weapons, once thought to be unbeatable, were now facing human ingenuity and willpower in ways the Empire had never expected. In space, the human ships, though smaller and less advanced, began to put up a fight. The Empire had relied on their superior technology to dominate, but Earth's forces adapted quickly. They had no choice but to improvise. Human pilots, flying in makeshift fighters, began taking down enemy ships with precision strikes, hitting weak spots in the Empire's armor. And Earth's ground forces, equipped with guerrilla tactics, sabotaged the Empire's supply lines, throwing the invaders into disarray. Reports from across the galaxy began to question the Empire's strategy. What had seemed like an easy conquest was turning into a costly war. The invaders, with all their might and technology, were now facing the one thing they had never counted on: a species that could think outside the box, adapt in real time, and fight not just with weapons, but with heart. On the front lines, humans continued to fight with everything they had. Their victory was far from certain, but the tide was slowly shifting in their favor. They were proving that it wasn't just about the strength of the army you commanded, but the strength of your will. The Empire had not prepared for the human spirit, and now it was their greatest enemy. In the midst of the chaos, Earth's leaders held an emergency summit. They knew the stakes. Earth's survival depended on their ability to remain united and focused. As representatives from every nation came together, they realized that this fight was bigger than just the defense of their planet. It was a stand for the entire galaxy, a warning to anyone who would think to underestimate humanity again. The Empire's forces, once filled with overconfidence, were now showing signs of hesitation. They were not used to this kind of resistance. As they fought against Earth's guerrilla tactics and innovative technology, they began to question whether this war was worth the cost. The realization was clear. The Empire had never faced anything like humanity before. The invaders may have thought they were unstoppable, but Earth's people had a message for them: you can't break us. No matter the odds, no matter the challenges, humanity would stand its ground. And in that defiance, they would rewrite the fate of the galaxy. The tides begin to turn. The Empire's forces, once so confident in their superiority, began to realize the true scale of their mistake. The humans, whom they had dismissed as insignificant, had proven to be more resilient than they could have ever imagined. The reports flooding into the Empire's command centers painted a picture of an enemy far more dangerous than anticipated. From the very first battle, the human resistance had fought fiercely. What the Empire had failed to anticipate was that humans were not just defending their homes. They were fighting for something deeper, something that transcended mere survival. For the first time, the Empire found themselves facing an enemy that wasn't just interested in fighting battles. They were determined to win the war. On the front lines, the humans were now using advanced tactics that had caught the Empire's top generals off guard. What had once been a chaotic, scattered resistance was now an organized and efficient force. Guerrilla tactics were now complemented by sophisticated technology, making Earth's forces a formidable opponent. The Empire's ships, once seen as invincible, now faced constant sabotage and ambushes. The most startling development was the shift in the human fleet's strategy. Using technology that had once been dismissed as outdated, they began to outsmart the Empire's advanced systems. Human ships, small and nimble, exploited weaknesses in the Empire's larger, more cumbersome warships. The Empire's ships were equipped with powerful shields and weapons, but they had one major flaw: they were predictable. And humans, it seemed, were anything but predictable. In the depths of space, human pilots executed maneuvers that left the Empire's fleet scrambling. Ships that had once been part of humanity's fledgling space programs were now modified into deadly instruments of war. They were agile, armed with experimental weapons that made them unpredictable in battle. Earth's fleet, though smaller, had the advantage of being able to think on its feet. adapting to each new threat that the Empire sent their way. Meanwhile, the Empire's leadership began to feel the pressure. Their initial reports had predicted a swift and easy conquest. Now, they were facing the reality that Earth would not fall without a fight. And this fight was far from over. The initial confidence of the Empire's commanders gave way to a creeping sense of doubt. Could they truly overcome this resistance? Could they break humanity's spirit, or was this war already lost? The Empire's command began sending reinforcements, but the human resistance only grew stronger with each passing day. New alliances were formed, with Earth's allies stepping in to help in whatever way they could. The human war machine was gaining momentum. What had started as a desperate defense now had the momentum of a full-fledged counterattack. At Earth's command centers, military leaders began to make bold decisions. They knew they were outmatched in terms of firepower, but they had something far more powerful: unity. Every nation on Earth, every city, every person, was rallying behind the war effort. Scientists were working tirelessly to develop new weapons, while engineers and technicians were reinforcing the fleet's capabilities. The human spirit was becoming a force that the Empire simply could not reckon with. As the war raged on, Earth's forces grew bolder. Humans were striking at the heart of the Empire's supply lines, cutting off resources that were essential for their war machine. Space battles were becoming increasingly intense, with human fighters now taking the fight directly to the Empire's flagship vessels. Every battle, every skirmish, seemed to push the Empire further to the edge. What was perhaps the most shocking to the Empire was how Earth's forces were learning and adapting with each encounter. Where once the Empire had dominated through overwhelming power, they were now facing a race of beings who could think, change, and improvise faster than their technology could adjust. Every time the Empire thought they had the upper hand, humans found a way to turn the tables. On Earth, the resistance forces began to send daring raids into enemy territory. With every mission, they captured more intelligence, sabotaged more equipment, and struck fear into the hearts of the Empire. These small, swift operations were becoming the backbone of humanity's strategy. Even with limited resources, Earth's warriors showed time and again that they could hold their ground. And they were not afraid to take the fight to the enemy's doorstep. The Empire was starting to realize that humanity was not merely resisting. They were becoming a force to be reckoned with. The perception of Earth as a weak, divided planet was fading quickly. Humanity had shown its strength, and the Empire could no longer ignore it. At this pivotal moment, the Empire was forced to rethink its strategy. They could no longer take the humans lightly. The battle for Earth had just begun, and the stakes had never been higher. As the tide began to turn, both sides knew one thing for certain: this was not a war that would end quickly. The Empire may have underestimated humanity's willpower, but now humanity had a message for them. Earth was not going down without a fight. And that message was clear. The Empire had woken a sleeping giant. The Empire's desperation. The battle was no longer just about victory. It was about survival. The Empire, once certain of its dominance, now found itself on the defensive. Reports from across the galaxy confirmed what the commanders had feared. Humanity was not just holding their ground. They were forcing the Empire to retreat. The once unshakable confidence that had defined the Imperial fleet was crumbling, replaced by a growing desperation. From the front lines, human forces kept pushing back, seemingly unstoppable. Every skirmish, every engagement, was marked by a brutal efficiency. Earth's fleets had begun to strike where they were least expected, far behind the enemy's lines, at their vulnerable supply bases, and even in the heart of the Empire's territory. The Empire's vast network of resources had been severely crippled, and the Empire's military might was slowly being worn down. In response, the Empire turned to more drastic measures. They called upon their most advanced weapons, their most powerful warships, and their most seasoned generals. But with every new strategy, the humans adapted. They had learned the Empire's tactics, understood their weaknesses, and were now exploiting them to the fullest. The Empire's technological edge, once thought to be insurmountable, was being matched and even outdone by human ingenuity. Human engineers had worked tirelessly, crafting new weapons and tech that were able to counter the Empire's advanced systems, what had once been considered the Empire's greatest advantage. Their massive warships and powerful weapons were now liabilities. The human fleet, smaller but far more agile, could strike and retreat with stunning precision, making it almost impossible for the Empire to land a decisive blow. As the Empire's commanders struggled to regain the upper hand, their communications were flooded with reports of human victories. A fleet of human warships had made a daring raid on one of the Empire's most fortified supply depots, stealing vital resources and leaving nothing but wreckage behind. The Empire, stretched thin and overextended, could do little but watch as their strength continued to dwindle. Frustration mounted within the Empire's high command. They could no longer afford to underestimate humanity. The humans' cleverness in warfare had forced the Empire to reevaluate its tactics. The initial idea of subjugating Earth with overwhelming force had been a failure. Now they needed something more, something that could crush humanity's resolve once and for all. Desperation led to drastic measures. The Empire began assembling a new weapon, a terrifying creation that combined their most advanced technology with experimental weaponry. The weapon, codenamed Doombringer, was designed to obliterate entire cities with a single strike. If the Empire couldn't win through conventional warfare, they would destroy Earth's resolve by force. Back on Earth, the humans knew that the Empire would respond with something catastrophic. Their intelligence networks had uncovered whispers of the Doombringer project, and the urgency to stop it grew with each passing day. It was clear that Earth's survival now hinged on stopping the Empire's new weapon. Human military leaders gathered, devising plans to strike at the heart of the Empire's operations. But they knew they couldn't do it alone. Allies from across the galaxy, those who had once remained neutral, now rallied to humanity's side. They saw what humanity was capable of and realized that the fate of the galaxy was tied to Earth's victory. However, humanity was still facing an uphill battle. With the Empire's new weapon nearly ready for deployment, time was running out. Earth's forces were stretched thin, fighting on multiple fronts, and morale was beginning to wear down. But the human spirit had proven resilient throughout this conflict, and now, more than ever, they needed to hold strong. On Earth, civilians and soldiers alike rallied to the cause, preparing for the coming storm. Scientists, engineers, and strategists worked around the clock to develop countermeasures to the Empire's new weapon. Humanity's ingenuity, once underestimated, had now become their greatest strength. As the Empire's forces closed in, the fate of Earth teetered on a knife's edge. The Empire's desperation to crush humanity had never been clearer, and the humans knew that they had one final chance to turn the tide in their favor. The world held its breath as the next phase of the war began, a battle that would determine not only the future of Earth, but the fate of the entire galaxy. Would humanity's determination be enough to stop the Empire's Doombringer, or would they fall before the Empire's overwhelming power? The answer lay ahead, in the most desperate and dangerous fight humanity had ever faced. The final gamble, the Empire's new weapon, the Doombringer, was finally complete. This colossal ship, a living nightmare of advanced weaponry, was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Its destructive capabilities were beyond imagination. Able to wipe out entire cities with a single blast, the Empire had pinned all their hopes on it. With this weapon, they were certain they could crush Earth once and for all. Humanity's resolve would be broken, and their last chance at victory would be extinguished. But the humans weren't giving up. Not now. Not after everything they had fought for. The stakes had never been higher. Earth's leadership knew that this was their final chance to defeat the Empire and secure their place in the galaxy. The Doombringer was on its way, and if it reached Earth's orbit, the consequences would be catastrophic. Humanity had no choice but to act quickly, and they were willing to risk everything. The human fleet, battered but far from broken, prepared for their final assault. In their desperation, They turned to a bold plan, one that could either save Earth or doom them all. It was a daring idea, to infiltrate the Empire's flagship before it could deploy the Doombringer and destroy it from within. This was not a mission for the faint-hearted. The ship was heavily guarded, bristling with weapons and shields designed to repel any attack. Yet humanity's military leaders believed this was their only option. The stakes were too high to let fear stand in their way. A group of elite human soldiers, handpicked for their skills and experience, was assigned to the mission. Their task was simple: get on board the Doombringer, find its core, and destroy it before the weapon could fire. It would take every ounce of courage, every ounce of ingenuity to succeed. But if they failed, humanity would be lost. The soldiers were trained for every possible scenario, but none of them could prepare for what awaited them inside the Empire's monstrous weapon. The Doombringer was a fortress in space, and its interior was a labyrinth of steel and deadly technology. The moment the human soldiers boarded, they knew they were on borrowed time. As the mission commenced, Earth's fleet engaged the Empire in a fierce battle, creating a diversion to give the infiltrators a chance to board. The human fleet was outnumbered, but they fought with unmatched ferocity. It was their last stand, and they gave it everything they had. For Earth, for their families, for the future. In the chaos of battle, the human soldiers slipped past the Empire's defenses, infiltrating the Doombringer. They moved swiftly, silently, using every trick they had learned in their years of training. They knew the risks, but they were determined. The fate of Earth depended on their success. The Empire, realizing that their fleet was being attacked from within, scrambled to defend their prized weapon. But it was too late. The humans had already planted the charge that would destroy the Doombringer. The mission was almost complete, but time was running out. With the countdown ticking, the soldiers fought their way to the core of the ship. The heart of the Doombringer, protected by layers of armor and advanced security systems, was heavily guarded. But nothing would stop the humans now. They had come too far, sacrificed too much. In a final, desperate push, the soldiers reached the core and activated the detonation sequence. But as they prepared to escape, the Empire launched a counterattack. The ship was now under lockdown, and the soldiers were trapped. The countdown continued, but their escape route was blocked. The fate of the mission, and their lives, hung in the balance. As the seconds ticked away, the humans made one last push. They fought with everything they had, refusing to let the Empire take Earth without a fight. It was a battle of wills, of determination, and of survival. The humans had already lost so much. Nothing could stop them now. Finally, the countdown hit 0. The Doombringer erupted in a blinding flash of light. The massive ship, the Empire's last hope for victory, was destroyed in an instant. The human soldiers had succeeded. But the battle was far from over. The destruction of the Doombringer was a significant blow to the Empire, but their forces were still strong. The Empire would not give up easily. Earth had won this round, but the war was not over. The fight for survival, for freedom, and for the future of humanity was far from finished. The human fleet, battered but victorious, retreated to regroup. They had struck a devastating blow to the Empire, but they knew this was only the beginning. There was still much to be done, and the Empire would not relent. But for now, humanity had won a crucial victory, a victory they had earned through sheer determination and courage. As the human forces regrouped and prepared for the next phase of the war, one thing was clear: the Empire had underestimated humanity. They had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest, but what they had found instead was a species unlike any other. A species that would fight, no matter the odds, no matter the cost. And the Empire, they were learning, the hard way, that humanity was not a foe to be underestimated. The Empire strikes back. The light from the destroyed Doombringer still flickered across the battlefield, a testament to humanity's fierce determination and courage. But the victory was short-lived. As the human fleet retreated to regroup, The Empire's response came quickly. They had underestimated humanity once, and they weren't about to make the same mistake again. Now, they were coming back stronger, with new tactics and reinforcements ready to crush Earth once and for all. The human fleet was scattered, battered by the battle, but the soldiers knew the war wasn't over. There was still hope, but it was fading quickly. The Empire's forces were relentless, and their power was nearly unmatched. However, humanity had something that the Empire didn't: unity. Despite the odds, despite the overwhelming power of the Empire, the people of Earth had one thing that could never be defeated: the will to fight for their future. In the aftermath of the destruction of the Doombringer, humanity had learned an important lesson. They couldn't rely on just brute strength. They needed to outthink their enemies, use their creativity, and rely on their ingenuity. The war was not going to be won by force alone, but by outsmarting and outmaneuvering the Empire at every turn. The humans regrouped, reinforcing their defenses, and developed a new strategy. They had no choice but to play the Empire at their own game. But this time, they would be ready. They would use the Empire's overconfidence against them, creating traps and decoys, outwitting their opponents in every possible way. The Empire, on the other hand, was blinded by its own hubris. They believed that their power was invincible, that the human resistance would eventually crumble. They were wrong. Earth's greatest strength was not its advanced technology or its massive fleet. It was the unbreakable spirit of its people. The humans were not ready to give up, no matter how many setbacks they faced. They were driven by a cause that was more than just survival. It was the fight for their very existence. As the Empire launched its next wave of attacks, the humans were ready. They had set a trap, a masterstroke of strategy that would catch the Empire off guard. The Empire's fleet moved into position, unaware of the hidden dangers lurking in the shadows. Humanity had learned from their mistakes and was prepared for this next confrontation. The battle that followed was like no other. The Empire's ships moved with precision, their weapons primed to destroy everything in their path. But humanity's fleet was nimble, creative, and quick to adapt. They used every trick in the book: false signals, decoy ships, surprise attacks, and sudden retreats, to confuse and disorient the Empire. The humans knew that they couldn't win by sheer firepower alone. They needed to be smarter, faster, and more resourceful. As the battle raged on, the humans slowly began to turn the tide. One by one, the Empire's ships fell. Their confidence began to waver as they realized that they had underestimated their enemies once again. The humans fought with everything they had, refusing to back down, refusing to let Earth fall into the hands of the Empire. But the Empire wasn't done yet. They had one final weapon, a hidden ace up their sleeve, a weapon so powerful that it could wipe out entire fleets with a single strike. This was the Empire's last-ditch effort to crush humanity once and for all. And they were willing to risk everything to do it. As the final weapon powered up, Earth's forces raced against time. They knew that if the Empire launched this weapon, it would be the end. They needed to destroy it before it could be fired. The humans had no time to waste. They launched a full-scale assault on the Empire's flagship, pushing through waves of enemy forces in a desperate attempt to stop the weapon before it was too late. The fight was intense. The humans fought like never before, drawing on every ounce of strength and courage they had. The Empire's final weapon was within reach, but so was their ultimate destruction. It was a race to the finish, a fight that would decide the fate of both Earth and the galaxy itself. In the end, it was the humans who prevailed. Against all odds, they'd reached the Empire's weapon and destroyed it, just in time to prevent the catastrophic strike. The Empire had been defeated once and for all. As the smoke cleared and the battle ended, humanity stood victorious. The Empire's forces were shattered, and their dreams of domination were crushed. Earth had held its ground, not through brute strength, but through determination, creativity, and the unwavering will to survive. The Empire had learned the hard way that humanity could not be broken. They had underestimated Earth's greatest weapon, the human spirit. With the Empire's retreat, Earth's future was secure. But the humans knew that this victory came at a great cost. They had lost many good people, and the war had left scars that would take generations to heal. But in the end, they had won. They had stopped the Empire, and they had proven that they would never be slaves to anyone. The galaxy would remember this day as the day the Empire's reign ended, because they had made the mistake of underestimating humanity.